to Hot Mess Murder Club, the only place where the stories are dark, the commentary is feral, and the hosts are running on caffeine, curiosity, and questionable life choices. Kat told me today it is my time to shine, like the brightest dumpster fire who managed to make it over 40 years without long-term incarceration. So before we spiral directly into today's beautifully unhinged case, we need to take a second to say something important. If you're listening right now, seriously, thank you. Whether you found us just last week or you've been riding shotgun with us since day one, you're the reason this chaotic little murder circus exists. Every listen, every share, every message, every what the hell did I just hear reaction means the world to us. So if you like the show, do us a quick solid. Hit follow or subscribe, leave a rating, and share the episode with your fellow true crime gremlins. It helps more people find the club, and the more people we have in this weird little community, the wilder the story gets. And speaking of wild, we're going to try something a little bit new today. We want you, the listeners, to send us your case suggestion. Not your average guy robs a bank and gets caught situation. We want the ones that make you sit there staring at your phone like, what the hell did I just read? Conspiracies, family betrayals, crimes that escalate from zero to absolute chaos. The darker, the stranger, and more psychologically messy, the better. But here's the fun part. The listener who sends us the most messed up case will win a limited edition Hot Mess Murder Club sticker and t-shirt bundle. Once we record and release the episode about the case that we think takes the crown for the maximum what the fuck energy, we will announce that winner on the show. Then we'll reach out to you directly to grab your shipping address so we can send you your new Hot Mess Murder Club survival gear. So start digging, internet detectives. Send us your most twisted, jaw-dropping cases and help keep this club beautifully unhinged. All right, deep breath, because today's story is a full-blown disaster.
I'm a murder club. Okay, Holly, that was fantastic. How did that feel?
I have a lot of anxiety right now. I didn't take any Xanax before starting that, but it was exhilarating. Let's do it again.
Okay, well, I mean...
I don't want to redo that. I'm kidding. Please don't.
Oh, yes, ma'am. Fine by me. Well, we're going to keep going, but I can't forget one of the Hot Mess Murder Club traditions, which is introducing you, even though you've done a stellar job of introducing yourself. But either way, I don't fucking care. Here we go. I am Kat, and joining me today is my co-host, my best friend of 20 years, and the only person I know who could watch a shark cough up a human limb and immediately start building a murder timeline instead of screaming and running for the parking lot. My forever partner in questionable decision-making, Miss Holly. So come on, everybody. We're all going to ask her together. Holly, how are ya?
You gotta make everybody ask. Like I said, I'm a little anxious, but I'm okay. I'm doing good. How are you?
You look good. I know. I'm good.
I look white. I look very white. This lighting sucks.
You look like a victim.
I mean, I'm a victim of something.
That you are. Well, I hope that you are ready for this one because it screams cheap indie film and includes a barfing shark. Are you ready for that?
Listen, Kat, if a shark throws up a human arm in front of me, my first thought is absolutely not call the police. My first thought's actually, well, somewhere out there, a murderer just found out that the ocean does not bury evidence. It returns it.
That's exactly right, because that is what happened. The evidence, I guess you could say, was returned. So today's story takes place in Sydney, Australia. That's right, we're going right back to Australia. But this is circa 1935, when a tiger shark at a public aquarium violently vomited up a human arm in front of a crowd of tourists. And that arm would unravel a mess involving smuggling, insurance fraud, blackmail, dismemberment, organized crime, and a 4-hour police boat chase, and one of the most ridiculous courtroom loopholes in legal history. And it is, without exaggeration, one of the most bizarre murder investigations ever recorded. So, Holly, are you still packed from the last time we went to Australia?
I don't think I washed my clothes yet. I definitely did not undo my suitcase.
Okay, well, we can wash your clothes when we get there. I don't
Okay.
mind your stench.
That's stinky.
Okay, well, we are getting on a plane again, so pack your musty, dusty fucking suitcase and let's go. So, Sydney in the mid 1930s was a city balancing two realities. On the surface, it was a proud port city, bustling harbors, busy streets, a growing population trying to rebuild after the devastation of World War I. But underneath that polished exterior was a thriving criminal underworld. The Great Depression had hit Australia hard. Money was scarce, jobs were scarce, and when people get desperate, crime suddenly becomes a lot more appealing. Smuggling operations were everywhere. Fast launches zipped across Sydney Harbor under cover of darkness carrying cocaine, alcohol, cigarettes, anything that could make a profit at the time. Respectable businessmen often had second careers running illegal operations at night, which brings us to the ocean. Because on April 17th, 1935, fishermen working about 2 miles off of Coogee Beach hauled something massive onto their boat, a 4.4-meter tiger shark, or damn near 14.5 feet in Murica measurements. The media called it a monster, which is journalism code for big enough to scare tourists and make money.
Fun fact, if you all didn't know, tiger sharks.
Sharks.
I said shark. Okay. Fun fact, if you all didn't know, tiger sharks sit comfortably near the top of the ocean's food chain. They're the second largest predatory shark species in the ocean behind the great white. And another fun fact, they are often referred to as the garbage disposal of the sea. You'll see why that's relevant in the story very soon. But anyway, the way they caught this behemoth was really quite unusual. Kat?
Well, thank you, Holly. So the tiger shark had swallowed a smaller shark that was already hooked on a fishing line. So when the fishermen reeled in their catch, they discovered they had accidentally captured a much larger version than they had anticipated, which probably seemed like a fun story at the time. So naturally, the next logical step was to drag this enormous apex predator to the Coogee Aquarium baths, stick it in a pool, and charge the public 1 shilling to come stare at it like it was SeaWorld during the Depression. Because nothing says family entertainment like a giant tiger shark circling a concrete bathtub. But what they didn't know was that inside that shark's upset tummy sat a piece of evidence that would eventually trigger a whole-ass murder investigation, 1930s style.
So, April 25th, 1935 is Anzac Day, which is very similar to Veterans Day here on the home front. It's one of the biggest national holidays in Australia. So, as usual, the streets were full of parades, memorial ceremonies, veterans, and people trying to enjoy the day off. However, about 14 visitors decided to spend the afternoon at the Coogee Aquarium baths. And they just so happened to be standing next to the shark pool when things went a little sideways.
Yeah, so without warning, the tiger shark began thrashing violently. It dove to the bottom of the pool, then surged upward, then spun in tight circles like it was trying to escape its own stomach. Witnesses later described the scene as chaotic and disturbing. And then the tiger shark began to vomit.
First came the brown foam. A thick, foul-smelling sludge. The stench was described as frightful. Then a whole-ass bird came out, which drew some confused murmurs from the crowd. Then there was a rat. Then the smaller shark it rode in on came out of its mouth next. It's just a nightmare.
Yeah, what I think my favorite thing is the stench was described as frightful. The words they used to describe things back in the 1930s is frightful.
I wouldn't think a smell would be frightful. I think wouldn't a better word be ghastly? That's ghastly.
Ooh. Oh. That would be a good word for it. I don't know. Yeah. I feel like if I'm going to say ghastly, I'm going to say it ghastly.
Yeah, just like that.
Yeah. I gotta say it like Ethel Kennedy would say it. Ghastly.
Fucking Ethel.
Fuck her. So, do you guys remember the garbage disposal of the fucking sea comment? Yeah, there's more. And then the shark convulsed again. and something pale slid out of its mouth and onto the edge of the pool. And it was a human arm. Right. A muscular left arm severed at the shoulder, and tied around the wrist was I almost said it was a three-piece. I almost said it was a three-piece, like it's wearing a suit. Anyway, so tied around the wrist was a piece of 3/4-inch manila rope tied in a professional half-hitch knot. The shark was basically sending the food back to the kitchen because it was undercooked.
Yum.
That was funny. Anyway, so once the police arrived at the Coogee, is it Coogee? Are we going with Coogee? Are we going with the Coogee? Coogee sounds like.
I think Coogee.
Are we going to go with Coogee? At the Coogee Aquarium? Oh, God, no. Honky tonk.
I wasn't going to honky tonk it. I was just going to say Coogee.
I don't know. I feel like if it's going to be Coogee, you almost have to.
You can.
All right, well, once the police arrived at the Coogee Aquarium on Anzac Day, 1935, what started as a deeply unpleasant afternoon at the fish tank suddenly turned into a full-blown homicide investigation. And not just any investigation. This one would involve forensic breakthroughs, a harbor chase that looked like something out of an action movie, and enough suspicious deaths to keep you on edge. But first, police had to answer one basic question. Whose arm had just ruined everyone's holiday?
Well, at first, detectives weren't even convinced that this was a murder, because when you hear that a shark coughed up a human limb in the public aquarium, your brain doesn't immediately jump to organized crime. It jumps to shark attacks in the water. But not these investigators. At first, police briefly entertained the idea that the arm had come from a cadaver used by the university students and that somebody had pulled a deeply tasteless prank. Which honestly sounds like the kind of decision that happens after a shit ton of drinks and terrible judgment. But that theory died pretty quickly. Once the arm was recovered from the tank and examined at the coroner's office, medical experts noticed something sharks don't typically leave behind: scratches on the bone. This arm came fresh with aftermarket scratch marks made by a cutting tool, meaning the arm hadn't been bitten off by a shark attack. It had been deliberately severed with a blade. And that discovery was what officially moved the situation from bizarre but kind of cool aquarium incident to an active homicide investigation.
Okay, so now we need to talk about how investigators actually identified this arm. Because by the time police retrieved it from the aquarium pool, the limb had spent somewhere between 1 and 2 weeks inside a shark's digestive tract. That was inside of a shark's digestive tract. That's right, they also managed to find out that the monster tiger shark wasn't the original muncher of the arm. It was in the stomach of the shark that the tiger shark ate, which is not exactly a spa treatment. So the skin was pale and waterlogged, soft enough that if you pressed on it too hard, the tissue underneath would basically collapse. The fingertips were swollen and wrinkled from stomach acids and seawater, and the outer skin had already begun separating from the flesh underneath, which meant detectives couldn't just roll the fingerprints like normal, so they had to use a forensic method that is appropriately called gloving. Holly, I really am excited to hear you tell everybody what gloving is.
Well, I would like to apologize in advance to anybody who is currently eating. You picked the wrong podcast on this fine day, but what happened next was essentially precision skin removal. A forensic technician, Constable Lindsay from the fingerprint division, had to carefully cut along the sides of each fingertip. It's because the only thing investigators needed from this arm was a thin outer layer of the skin where the fingerprint ridges lived. Then, using surgical tools, Lindsay began peeling the epidermis away from the flesh underneath. Slowly and carefully, the outer skin separated from the soft tissue beneath it like a damp glove sliding off of a hand, except this glove was translucent, gray, and still shaped like somebody's fingers. By the end of the process, what he had left were 5 hollow tubes of human skin. Just the outer layer. What?
Just 5 hollow tubes of human skin.
Yep. Just that outer layer, no muscle, no bone, just the delicate ridged surface that holds a person's fingerprints. Yeah, you can see those 5 little tubes just sitting on a tray somewhere, and it reminds me of those little rubber fingers you get in like your Halloween bag. That's kind of what I got pictured, the little witch fingers.
Yeah, I guess that kind of makes sense. It's just the way that you described it. Just silly business. It's silly.
Yeah.
But anyway, so now came the part that feels like it should require hazard pay. Those hollow fingertip thimbles were then slipped over the technician's own rubber-gloved fingers. Yes, he literally wore them. Each piece of skin stretched over his finger like a grotesque second glove. It gave the fragile skin texture so it wouldn't collapse or tear. And once the technician had essentially put on the victim's fingerprints, he pressed them onto ink, then rolled them into a fingerprint card, the exact same way you would when you fingerprint a living person. Except in this case, the prints belonged to someone whose arm had been living in the stomach of a marine animal rent-free. And somehow, this actually fucking worked. Kiki.
Cat is so fucking loud.
I love her. Anyways, the ridges were clear and the prints were usable. When police ran them through their files, they got a match. The arm belonged to James, or Jim, Smith. Ah,
That's such a generic name.
it almost sounds made up, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's as bad as John Smith. It is such a made-up name.
Well, I mean, we're talking about the 30s. They weren't exactly extremely clever with the names then.
I feel like in the 30s, their names would have been better. Like, more distinguished.
Why would you think that?
I don't know. I guess of my grandpa. But I guess
What
his
was your
name
grandpa's name?
David?
Okay.
I was...
I thought you were going to say like Lord Farquaad or some shit, like David.
No, I wouldn't admit it if his name was Lord Farquaad.
You know what I mean.
Good. I mean, I don't know. My other grandpa's name was Coy.
Coy?
Yeah. C-O-I. Coy. Coy Dean.
Coy Dean?
Like his middle name was Dean. So I feel like that's kind of a funky
So out
name.
of David and Coy, you assumed that people in the 30s would have beautiful names?
I didn't say beautiful. I said more distinguished. Better
Okay.
than Jim.
What do you... David.
Hey, you do not make fun of Grandpa.
I wasn't making fun of Grandpa.
You loved my grandpa.
I did. I'm still upset I never got his gun that I was never promised.
It's not
Anyways,
yours.
just keep going.
Okay. So the investigators already had another clue staring them in the face. The tattoo. On the inner forearm was a crude but distinctive image of two boxers mid-fight. And despite everything the arm had been through, the tattoo was actually still vivid. The blue and red ink had held up so well that when Smith's wife and brother saw it, they recognized it immediately, which was how this case officially went from a shark throwing up something cool in public to a confirmed murder investigation.
I mean, imagine murdering someone and thinking that the ocean is going to hide the evidence, and instead, like, a shark just burps up your victim into a public swimming pool full of witnesses. Like, that is shit luck.
I mean, they did it to themselves. Why are you trying to hide your shit in the ocean? Just bury it like everybody else.
Can you imagine if this shark found Dexter's hide a hole for bodies?
Oh, man. Dexter was pretty awesome, though. I'm just going to say, like, I fully agree with Dexter's murder habits. He killed the killers. He went after the killers. He was a good bad guy.
I wasn't saying that what Dexter did was completely wrong. I'm just saying, what if a shark found his hidey hole and then, like, went up to the shore and was like, hey, guys, check this out. And, like, just barfed up a whole bunch of body parts.
He would have gotten caught a long time ago.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. But let's talk about old bland name Jimmy here for just 1 second. So Jimmy Smith had been born in England in 1890. He moved to Australia as a young man and had lived a very colorful life. He was once a lightweight boxer. Later he worked as a billiard saloon manager. And like many people living around Sydney Harbor, he had connections to the criminal world. But Jimmy also had another job, one that made him extremely unpopular in certain circles. He was also a police informant. And in Australian slang of the time, this type of person was called a fizzgig. A stupid name. Anyway, so that essentially meant someone who talked to the police about criminal activity. And our boy Jimmy, he talked a lot. And apparently, he talked a little too much about the wrong people. Let's get into who those people are.
So one of those people was Reginald Holmes. There we go. Reginald. I'm sorry.
Better than David. Oh,
David's better than Reginald.
but Reginald is a unique name.
It is stupid, is what it is.
I didn't say it was cool, but it's more original than David.
I didn't say anything about original. I said
what do
more
you mean?
unique.
That's the same thing.
No.
Holly.
Cat, I'm right. I want to be right. Just let me be right. And I don't care about Reginald because David's better. I'm just saying.
Keep fucking going.
You saw how my night was going and you still wanted to proceed.
Just keep fucking reading.
Holmes was a successful boat build. Holmes was a successful boat build. Holmes was a success. Holmes built boats
professionally
and successfully. He owned a thriving company called Holmes's Boat Shed, where they construct high-speed launches used around Sydney Harbor. High-speed launches are traditionally large, powerful motorboats, and in the 1930s, they were often used as taxis, workboats, or luxury transport across the Sydney Harbor. He was well-connected, respectable, and a family man. He was a churchgoer, and wouldn't you know it, he was a major smuggler. Holmes used his boats to run cocaine and other contraband from Sydney Harbor under cover of darkness. Now our friend Jimmy, he worked for Holmes doing odd jobs, boat repairs and general labor, and occasionally helping with smuggling operations. You know, casual criminal activity on the side. But the relationship changed in 1934 because Holmes had hatched an insurance scheme involving a motor yacht called the Pathfinder.
So now I'm going to tell you all a little bit about the Pathfinder scam, as we call it. So Holmes and a partner purchased the yacht and insured it for £8,500, or $11,366.71 America bucks, which during the Great Depression was an enormous sum. And his plan was simple. Have Jimmy take the boat offshore near Terrigal and deliberately sink it. File an insurance claim, collect the payout, everyone gets rich. But something went wrong. The insurance company became suspicious and the payout was denied. And suddenly, Jimmy possessed extremely dangerous information because he knew exactly who had attempted to commit insurance fraud. So Jimmy took this opportunity to start demanding money for his silence. In other words, he started blackmailing Reginald Holmes, which is generally not a safe hobby when the person you're blackmailing runs a drug smuggling operation.
Yeah, good old Reggie. They don't fucked
Reggie,
up.
I like that.
It's easier to say than Reginald, and it doesn't sound quite as stupid. So we'll call him Reggie hereforth.
Okay.
So on April 7th, 1935, Jimmy told his wife he was going fishing with a man named Mr. Vaughn. But that name was just an alias, and not a very cool one, but I guess it worked. I feel like they could have done better. I feel like they could have done a lot better.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, either way, instead, Jimmy went to the Cecil Hotel in Cronulla, where he met Patrick Brady, who was a forger, an ex-soldier who made a living copying signatures and falsifying financial documents. The two men spent the evening drinking and playing cards. Later, they went to a rented cottage on Toowoomba Street. Did I say that right?
I don't think so. I think it's Toowoomba Street.
They went to a rented cottage on Toowoomba Street. What do you think they're going to do in the cottage?
Oh, I guess we're going to fucking find out.
That's saucy. And this was the last time Jimmy Smith was ever seen alive. When police later investigated the cottage, they discovered a large metal trunk. Inside were traces of a reddish substance believed to be the blood mixed with kerosene. The smell was incredibly overwhelming, and all of that led investigators to believe that Jimmy had been murdered there, then dismembered.
I guess we found out what they did at the cottage.
I mean, that doesn't mean they didn't get saucy first.
Okay, so at some point during the disposal of the body, Jimmy's arm was removed. The exact reason remains unclear, but investigators at the time believed the killer kept the arm temporarily as a proof of death when dealing with Holmes. The rest of Jimmy's body was likely placed inside the metal trunk and disposed of in the ocean using a criminal technique known as the Sydney send-off.
That's cute.
Isn't it? I like that. Way to go, Australia. You guys are cool. Anyway, so the avarm, god damn. I might not even edit this. Okay. Show them what we're really like. Anyway, so the arm eventually ended up in the harbor where it was eaten by a shark, which was then eaten by another shark that would eventually vomit it up in front of a group of horrified aquarium visitors, which is, statistically speaking, an absurd chain of events.
So, on the morning after Jim Smith disappeared, a cab driver named Lloyd Cook picked up a fare outside a small rented cottage in Cronulla. And the passenger climbing into the back seat was a man named Patrick Brady. Now, Brady, according to Cook, did not look like a man having a normal morning. He looked like somebody who had just had the worst night of his life. Cook later described him as disheveled, nervous, and visibly shaken, which is already raising a few questions. Because generally, when you call a taxi at dawn looking like you fought a lawnmower and lost, something interesting has happened. But the ride only got weirder from there because Brady spent the entire trip acting like a man who had just done something extremely illegal and was trying very, very hard not to think about it.
Yeah, I think that's a nice way of putting it. And according to Cook, Brady was sweating, fidgeting, and constantly looking over his shoulder like someone might be following them. But the most unsettling detail, Brady refused to remove one hand from his coat pocket the entire ride. So once investigators confirmed that the arm belonged to Jimmy, the investigation suddenly had direction. Before that moment, the police were basically dealing with what looked like the ocean's worst lost and found situation. But now they had a name, which meant detectives could start asking obvious questions. Who wanted Jim Smith dead enough to cut him apart and feed him to the harbor? And the first step was figuring out where Smith had been the last time anyone saw him alive. Let's go down that social trail, Holly, after you're done yawning. Sorry that I bore you.
The answer led to a place. Fuck. It's not that you bore me.
Oh,
it's that
getting into it.
We're not going to get into it. So the answer led the police to a place that had launched more bad decisions in human history than almost anywhere else on Earth. A bar. Specifically, the Cecil Hotel in Cronulla. He had been sitting there drinking and playing cards with a man several people had recognized. Patrick Francis Brady.
Yep. So we are already off to a strong start. Because if the last person seen with you alive is a guy whose job is literally fraud, things are not looking great. But the witnesses didn't just place Brady at the hotel. They confirmed that the two men had been drinking together for hours. Looking to anyone watching like two friends having a perfectly normal dude's night out, and then they left together. And that's when the trail starts getting dark because, that's when Smith never came back. So detectives start digging into Brady's recent activities, and what they found was suspicious at best. A few days earlier, Brady had rented that small, isolated cottage on Toowoomba Street. That place overlooked Gunnamatta Bay, which sounds very peaceful and scenic until you realize it's also an extremely convenient place to dispose of things that you don't want found. The property was called Candy Cottage, which sounds adorable for real, like somewhere you'd go for a seaside vacation, not somewhere investigators would later believe a man was cut apart on a mattress.
Well, the name alone is offensive because if someone invites me into a place called Candied Cottage, I'm expecting a lot more than just a murder mattress. Like, I want sparkles and glitter and candy and lollipops. Like,
you know what I was thinking of? Charlie the Unicorn.
Oh, Charlie.
Yeah. It's impossible to wear a frown in Candy Town. Remember, the whole Candyland fucking Candy Mountain?
Candy Mountain. Okay, so let's go back to before knowing all about the mattress. The landlord quickly became an important witness because he told detectives something interesting. Brady had left the cottage earlier than expected, and when police went to inspect the place, they immediately noticed something weird. Someone had cleaned that cottage so aggressively that it looked less like housekeeping and more like a man desperately trying to erase a homicide, which, as it turns out, was exactly what they had suspected happened.
And that is always the moment in TV shows where detectives say something dumb like, someone tried to clean up the crime scene.
Yeah, but the real giveaway wasn't what the detectives found, it's what was missing. Ooh, spooky. Ooh.
What's another one of the dumb, like, popular crime show things like detectives say when they come across the crime scene or something? Doesn't Horatio have like a famous line from one of those CSIs?
Horatio, is he the ginger? He's a fucking
with the stupid sunglasses.
Yeah, he puts on his sunglasses.
He's so
their
stupid.
time was up. Like he
Was
always
that
has
it?
No, I don't know. He makes up a stupid line. It's something different in every episode.
Yeah, like if a pocket watch was left on each victim, he'd be like,
his time,
like his time was up.
Yeah. It's always something retarded. And
he's that fucking guy.
Cliche.
Yeah. Anyways, so when investigators started inventorying the cottage, several items that had been there before Brady arrived were suddenly gone. And not just misplaced, gone in the way that happens when someone realizes their living room just hosted a dismemberment party and starts panic cleaning like a lunatic. First thing missing was that large tin trunk. According to the landlord, this trunk had been sitting in the cottage before Brady rented it. By the time police arrived, poof, gone, which detectives immediately suspected had been used to transport Jim Smith's torso. Because if you're going to dump a body in the harbor, you need a container. And apparently, Brady's brilliant idea was to use the cottage owner's furniture like it was a Home Depot crime kit.
I mean, imagine committing murder and thinking, perfect, I'll just borrow the random trunk from the rental property. Nobody's going to notice.
Yeah, I think the owner's going to notice.
I mean, you don't think that they know exactly what the fuck they have there? Like,
well, especially in this time frame, like people don't have a lot as it is. So it's not like the whole house is full of beach knickknacks like you'd see now. Like the trunk was probably one of 4 items in the whole house.
I mean, that's true. But the investigators noticed the second thing that was missing, which was the mattress. So, yeah, the entire mattress from the cottage bed had just vanished, which detectives immediately suspected had been used during the murder itself, because mattresses are excellent at absorbing liquids like blood, like lots of blood. So, once that happens, there's really no coming back from it. Investigators believe that Brady had simply gotten rid of the entire thing rather than trying to explain why the bed looked like a crime scene exploded on it. Because clearly nothing screams definitely innocent like removing an entire mattress from the house and pretending like it's normal.
Yeah, so now there's 2 things left in this house. Out of the 4, I think the landlord's going to notice.
Say they still had the base of the bed, probably the box spring. The mattress was the only thing gone. You can lay on a hard surface. You'll be fine.
Yeah, but I'm saying as far as anybody noticing.
Oh, yeah. They're absolutely going to notice.
Like, why? Criminals, man. Sometimes they're just so dumb. And that wasn't the only couple of things missing from this cottage. So then there was the boat. The cottage came with a rowboat, a small one tied up near the shore of Gunnamatta Bay, which sounds charming until you realize it's also the perfect tool for quietly moving something heavy into deep water. And when detectives examined the boat, they found it had been meticulously scrubbed, not casually rinsed, but scrubbed like someone had spent hours making sure not a single stain remained, which detectives interpreted exactly how you're interpreting it right now, dear listener, that someone had used the boat to transport something extremely messy, like a trunk containing the remains of a man who had recently lost an arm. Hypothetically, of course.
So at this point, police began forming a very grim theory. They believed that Jim Smith had come to the cottage with Brady that night, and that sometime after the drinking and cards, something had gone wrong. Very, very wrong. Detectives believed that Smith was killed inside that cottage, and based on the missing mattress and the condition of the room, they suspected his body had been dismembered there. The remains were likely placed inside the missing trunk, loaded into the rowboat, and then dumped somewhere out in the I can't say that word. Guanamata Bay?
I mean, it's 2 words.
Loaded into the rowboat and dumped somewhere out in Guanamata Bay. Everything except one thing. The arm. The arm that somehow escaped, got eaten by a shark, then got eaten by another shark, and eventually wound up being violently returned to society inside the aquarium.
I love how we keep saying that. Eaten by a shark, eaten by another shark. I just want to make sure people really get that visual stuck in their head. It's like one of those Russian dolls.
It's kind of cool, though. Like, the whole, as much as it's messed up, like, it's an interesting case because they don't think of a whole ass shark eating another whole ass shark, and then there's an entire arm inside of the first shark who, yeah, it's a fucking disaster.
I kind of wish that I was there to see the big giant shark throw up the other shark that it had eaten. Like, how insane would that be?
What about the bird? Where the fuck did the bird come from?
I feel like the bird would have just been like a heavy burp, like, and it just plops out.
I think the most interesting part would be to see the arm just come sliding out of the mouth, like as he's
with the goop.
Goop.
So at this point, investigators were pretty sure they knew exactly what happened. So police launched a search operation. And when I say search operation, I mean they went full government overkill. They called in the Australian Navy. They called in the Air Force. Divers swept the waters of Port Hackling and Guanamata Bay. Aircraft flew overhead, scanning the surface like they were looking for a downed plane. Because detectives weren't searching for clues anymore, they were searching for the rest of Jim Smith. And after all that, they found nothing. No trunk, no remains, no body. Jim Smith essentially vanished into that harbor. And that missing body would later become the prosecution's biggest nightmare, because under the law, you generally need a corpus delicti.
But even without a body, detectives were convinced that they knew who did it. Between the scrubbed cottage, the missing trunk and mattress, the taxi driver's statement, and the fact that Brady was the last known person seen with Jim Smith alive, the police moved in. So on May 16th, 1935, officers formally arrested Patrick Brady for murder.
Yeah, they did. Way to go, Pat. So once police grabbed Patrick Brady, they didn't get a tearful confession or some dramatic breakdown. They got ice cold nothing. Brady sat through 6 hours of questioning, answering basically nothing unless it was something police already knew. Just stonewalling like his personality was sponsored by emotional constipation. He really said, "I'm going to give you nothing, and you're going to hate me for it," which, honestly, mission accomplished.
And here's the important part. Brady didn't crack because detectives were clever. He cracked because they went for the emotional jugular. Police brought in his wife. She's sobbing, distressed, and getting dragged into this mess that he had created. And suddenly, Brady's whole Mr. Chill routine starts to wobble.
Mm-hmm.
That's when he finally agrees to give a statement. Not a spoken one. Brady asks for a pen and paper, and he writes out an account that basically confirms what police suspected. He and Reggie Holmes were partnered up in multiple illegal scams, including that fun insurance scam that started this whole fucking mess.
They brought his wife in. What a fucking move. Why wasn't she like, "I don't even know this fucking guy," and just stick to the story?
Because she wants him gone. If she gives him up, because if he goes to jail, she gets all of his money.
Oh, yeah, cry, bitch, cry.
Yeah. Like, if he's gone, he's got no way of getting that money. Like, she's got it. She's good. At least for a while.
That's true. All right. Well, Brady's strategy wasn't confession, it was deflection. He immediately starts pointing at Holmes like, actually, that guy is the mastermind. He claimed Holmes orchestrated everything and Brady was just tangled up in Holmes' schemes. And Holmes, once he's under pressure later, fires right back. Holmes claims Brady acted alone and that Brady showed up with a severed arm and used it to blackmail him. So now you've got two criminals in a blame game tennis match volleying responsibility back and forth like the loser isn't still them.
And here's what Patrick Brady never does. He never admits to the murder. He never admits to dismemberment. He keeps a tight, tactical silence on the actual act of cutting up Jim Smith. Even when police confront him with the taxi driver's testimony describing Brady as keeping one hand jammed in a bulging pocket the entire ride. A pocket police believed held that severed arm.
But police don't buy it for a second, because by this point, they've already established a financial link between Holmes and Brady through a check forgery scam, which is basically the 1930s version of "we saw you Venmo him crime stuff." So detectives keep Holmes under intense pressure and surveillance, because they're not dealing with an innocent church-going boat builder. They're dealing with a man who built fast launches for a living and apparently also built a second life made entirely of fraud and denial.
So by the morning of May 20th, Holmes is trapped between two nightmares. On one side, the police closing in. He knows an arrest is coming for his role in the insurance fraud and possibly worse. On the other side, the underworld. And Holmes knows these kinds of people don't do polite requests. He's reportedly being blackmailed by Brady, and he's afraid of retaliation from criminal gang he's been mixed up with. So he's basically standing in the middle of two moving trains, realizing both of them are aimed directly at his face.
Yeah, it's the actions meet consequences phase of the program here, people, and he's not handling it with grace. So Holmes actually panics, and he decides to drink. A lot. Later, police would find an empty gin bottle in his boat, which is just a beautiful detail if you love watching a man self-destruct with commitment. He then goes to his boat shed at Lavender Bay, pulls out a .32 caliber pistol, and shoots himself right in the dome. And here's where the universe decides to clown on him. The bullet hits his forehead at an angle and flattens against his skull, like his forehead is made of regret and reinforced concrete. It doesn't kill him. It just stuns him, and he falls into the harbor. And that's where the cold water shocks him back into consciousness.
Imagine trying to end it all, and your own skull is like, nope, you're going to stay right here and suffer the plot.
Yeah, look at what you did. You did this to us.
Like, not today. You're fucking with your own mind at that point, like, because you already thought you were done and over it. You would never have to live out the consequences of your actions because you're done.
I think him being so shit-faced wasted, he probably didn't think about that at all. So now a normal person would wake up bleeding in the water and think, I should surrender and get some medical help. But Holmes wakes up bleeding and thinks, time to activate maximum chaos.
So now dazed, intoxicated, and panicked, he climbs back into one of his high-speed launches. He sees police approaching and, in his gin-soaked paranoia, believes they're not police. They're gang members. They're coming to finish him off. So
I told you, this shit is weird.
So he does what any rational man would do after a failed suicide attempt. He guns the engine and tears straight into the main harbor, and he triggers a 4-hour chase. 4 hours.
This is a cartoon. This has to be a cartoon.
4 hours through Sydney Harbor, zigzagging around ferries and ships, bleeding from the head, driving like a man who's trying to outrun both the law and his own terrible life choices. The chase eventually heads out towards Sydney Heads because apparently Holmes's plan was, if I could just reach open water, maybe I can disappear into my own criminal fantasy.
And the wildest part is, the chase wasn't just a spectacle. It was the moment Holmes finally cracked, because when you're chased for 4 hours with a flattened bullet in your forehead and gin in your bloodstream, your respectable mask starts slipping really fast. But after 4 hours of bleeding, swerving through ferry traffic, Reggie Holmes finally surrendered a little over a mile out to sea, just outside Sydney Heads. He cuts the engine, lets the boat drift, then stands up like he's about to give a fucking TED Talk and reportedly yells, Jimmy Smith is dead and there is only another left. If you leave me until tonight, I will finish him.
Sir, please sit down. You're literally leaking forehead juice.
What the hell kind of a thing is that to say to the cops? If you leave me until tonight, I will finish him. Reggie, sweetie. No.
Can you imagine? I would just kind of want to see it. I just want to see the whole thing take place.
I'd be the one on the boat going, speech, speech, speech. So the water police immediately take him into custody and haul him straight to the hospital for that forehead wound, because it turns out getting a bullet flattened in your skull is not a walk it off kind of situation. And Holmes's first story is adorable. He claims he was attacked and shot in the head at home and thought the cops chasing him were the attackers. Then, shockingly, he drops the act and starts cooperating, eventually confessing.
So once Holmes is patched up enough to talk without actively dripping into the harbor, he suddenly finds religion. Not the churchy kind, the self-preservation kind. He starts cooperating and gives detectives a statement that's basically, I'm involved in crime, but I'm not involved in that crime. And if we could all agree that Patrick Brady is the villain here, that would be amazing.
Oh, that'd be great, guys. Thanks.
Let's just go with that.
Yeah.
So Holmes's version kind of goes like this. Brady killed and dismembered Jim Smith at the Cronulla cottage. Brady stuffed the body into the trunk and then dumped it into Guantanamo Bay. And then Brady allegedly shows up at Holmes's house with the severed arm like it's a business card and demands 500 pounds, basically implying pay up or you're next. So Holmes admits that he's the one who later drives to Maroubra. How do you say that? Maroubra.
I'm gonna go with, Maroubra. I don't know.
Maroubra Beach, and then throws the arm into the ocean. So Holmes's confession is, I didn't kill him. I just handled the severed limb, paid the extortion, and disposed of the evidence. But that's not innocence, babe. That's outsourcing.
It absolutely is.
Holmes agrees to be the Crown star witness at the coroner's inquest set for June 12, 1935. And then on the morning of the hearing, Holmes is found dead in his car at Dawes Point, shot 3 times in the chest at close range. Now, most people assume he was silenced by the underworld because, well, obviously. But there's also a darker theory that some historians float. Holmes may have arranged his own murder so his family could collect $20,067.22 USD life insurance policy.
That 22 cents, though.
That's a lot back in the 1930s. So either the underworld shut him up or Holmes said, if I'm going down, at least my family's getting paid.
Yeah, and with Holmes dead, prosecutors lose the one witness who could directly tie Brady to the murder in a way a courtroom can't wiggle out of. So Brady's lawyer, Clive Evatt KC, does what flamboyant defense attorneys do best. He turns reality into a technicality. He argues, an arm is not a body, Judge.
I like the way you say it. It sounds right. It just sounds right.
I'm trying to think of 1930s people, right? So like, an arm is not a body, sir.
I'm picturing the fedora.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Anyway, so saying that means the arm belongs to Jim Smith, but without a full corpse, you can't prove a homicide occurred. I mean, for all anyone knows, Jim Smith could be alive somewhere with one arm, living his best minimalist life. And the judge agrees. The evidence is insufficient, so Brady walks. Can't catch me, copper, Shay. See you around, Judge. Hey.
I was going to join in, but it doesn't sound right coming out of my mouth. Like,
just try it.
I was just,
I
did it and I do it again.
Yeah, I killed him and I'll kill him again. That sounded more Arkansas.
Oh, okay.
1930s Arkansas. No, I did.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I killed him and I'll kill him again. I'm going to leave it at can't catch me, Kappa.
You're retarded. Keep going.
So imagine being murdered, eaten by sharks, 2 of them, fingerprinted through your own skin, and the legal system still goes, counterpoint, maybe he's just living the dream without an arm.
I love
this whole
that.
thing is mind-boggling.
I mean, they have a point. I mean, clearly, the guy's not okay.
No.
On the best case scenario, he's walking around with one arm. So this guy is not living his best life. They're just stupid, but at the same time, like, good for them because he got away with it because they didn't find a body.
Yeah, all because he got rid of 2 out of 4 things in that cottage that could have tied an actual murder to him. So he fucking goes free because all he had to do was carry 2 things. Can you imagine trying to pull that shit off nowadays? There's so many things in people's houses that would have splatter, that would have DNA evidence. This guy had to haul a mattress and a trunk. That's it. Free man.
I mean, they didn't have any of the technology that they do now.
No.
At all.
They honestly probably didn't give a shit about this guy. They were like, oh, yeah, great point. Good thing someone figured out a loophole.
But they took the time to make tubes from the guy's fingers to identify him.
I think that forensic guy just wanted to try it.
He just wanted to see if he could successfully make fingers.
I think he was just bored.
He wanted to feel important.
Yeah, so they went to the aquarium. He threw his Crocs on, and he fucking cut somebody's skin off and then fingerprinted him. You gotta wear Crocs. It's wet on the ground, and Crocs are rubber, and they're great for grip in wet environments.
By the way, if you shop at Crocs at the St. Louis Premium Outlet Mall, ask for Holly and receive 25% off your purchase.
Da-da-da-da-da-da. Crocs! Anyway, so that's it. That is the shark arm case. A murder investigation powered by bad men, worse decisions, and one tiger shark that accidentally became the most helpful snitch in Australian history. Yay!
Yay!
Give it up for the tiger shark.
Tiger sharks are pretty.
They are, but they are incredibly terrifying.
But they're little dumpsters, and I like them. They're the dumpsters of the sea.
They're the garbage disposals of the sea, and they're fucking terrifying.
It's okay. They're still cute. Not like otter cute, but they probably eat the otters. I don't like tiger sharks anymore.
All right, so I hope everybody had a good time walking through Holly's brain for a moment.
Fuck you.
Anyway, so this is where it brings me to my favorite part of the episodes, but also the part where Holly gets incredibly depressed because I get really excited.
Yeah, I don't like
it. How that works, I'll never know.
I don't like it.
Cool.
Do it.
Why this case is a hot mess. All right. And we're dancing.
Your boobs are doing a thing. You need to calm that down.
I don't have boobs.
They're doing a thing, ma'am.
Quit looking at my boobs, you perv.
What are you expecting? Because it's bouncing in the camera.
You're a pervert.
I'm a pervert? I've been called worse.
You leave my tiny TTs alone, all right?
Okay. You know, yours used to be the same as mine.
I know. And then I quit drinking alcohol and lost a bunch of weight, and now they're sad and stare at the floor.
I don't drink alcohol almost ever, and I still have a chest.
You have a cupcake problem.
How dare you?
So, this case is a hot mess for 3 very specific reasons. All right? 3 fresh reasons this case is a mess. And yes, the shark stays. So, reason number 1. The shark did the evidence delivery. A tiger shark literally regurgitated the case file in public. Reason number 2. The investigation had receipts, but no body. Fingerprints, tattoo ID, cleaned cottage, missing trunk, taxi witness, and still the torso vanishes like it had a travel itinerary. And number 3, the whole thing ran on fear and blackmail. Severed arm as extortion, panic confessions, and everyone scrambling to save themselves instead of telling the truth. Holly, what do you think about that shit?
So this case is basically the ocean hands place a human arm, and everyone involved responds by lying, cleaning, running, and dying at extremely convenient times. You've got a crime scene that's been scrubbed like a rental inspection, a trunk that disappears into deep water forever. The shark is the only one who showed up, did his part, and didn't contradict himself. Thank God.
That's right.
Good for you, shark.
That shark is the real MVP of this whole thing.
Way to go, tiger shark.
But unfortunately, 3 days after this, the shark was still sick, and then they had to put him down because they had to search for more evidence.
Did you do like a where is he now thing on the fucking tiger shark? You did.
I don't think that's any of your business.
I mean, I feel like that's the only way you got any of this information. Or any of that part of the information.
That's none of your business, pervert. You know what, Holly? I thought that analysis was stellar. I thought you did a great job. And
I feel like you're mocking me.
I'm trying to make you feel fucking good because I know you hate this part. So you did great. The analysis was good. You sound fucking smart and you look pretty. All right? Fuck you.
But I have a cupcake problem.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
And make sure you're following Hot Mess Murder Club anywhere you get your podcast. New episodes drop every Monday for your ear holes to enjoy. Also, we are always excited to hear what our listeners have to say. So send us an email at hotmessmurderclub@gmail.com or leave us a comment under our YouTube videos. After subscribing, of course. Otherwise, it won't count. Tell us what you think or what case you want to hear coming up in the lineup. Don't be shy because that is fucking boring. And remember, if your cleanup plan includes a trunk, a bay, and blind faith in seawater, you're not clever. You're just hoping the ocean doesn't burp. All right, that's it. Get the fuck out of my house. Goodbye.
Bye.
Say bye, Kiki.